3 years ago, I concluded a very impactful academic research study where I answered the question, how did Kawasis First Nation develop and implement its Miopima-Tiswin Act to retake control over its children? I found that years after the implementation of the Act, not a single Kawasis child was apprehended and placed into government child welfare. I had the opportunity to disseminate my research to thousands of people all over Canada and beyond. Amazing research is being conducted by racialized faculty and graduate students all over Canada in fields from biology to psychology, from public policy to public health, from research in film to research in education. Racialized researchers are doing amazing work to solve real-life problems. And now they're here to share it with you in very simple terms. My name is Kwaku Ayisi, and this is Academic Research Made Simple. Hello everyone, welcome to the Academic Research Made Simple podcast, or ARMS. My name is Kwaku Ayisi. I am a PhD candidate at the Johnson Shoyama Graduate School of Public Policy at the University of Regina. Incredible research has been conducted by racialized graduate students and racialized faculty all over Canada, from British Columbia all the way to Nova Scotia. And today we have an amazing researcher, Eniola Olu-Ayorinde. Eniola is a graduate research student at the University of Regina, specializing in quantitative tropic ecology and biodiversity with an interest in conservation, sustainability, and climate change. Under Dr. Bruno Soares, she is working on developing a global database on prey-predator interactions in freshwater ecosystems. By leveraging AI-powered data extraction from global sources and then analyzing taxonomic and geographical biases in available information using our programming, she aims to uncover ecological patterns and biases, enhancing our understanding of freshwater food webs and ecological resilience. She holds a BSc in marine biology from Nigeria and is currently pursuing an MSc in biology at the University of Regina. Eniola was recently selected as one of the 8 interns for the Living Data Project internship by the Canadian Institute of Ecology and Evolution at the Acadia Wildlife Museum, where she will support ecological data rescue efforts. She co-authored a research abstract on global prey-predator interactions that was presented at an international ecology conference. She is also a strong advocate for open science, ensuring her research datasets follow FAIR principles. Beyond research, Eniola also serves as a teaching assistant at the University of Regina, guiding undergraduate biology labs and assessments. Previously, she was the campus director for the United Nations Academic Impact Millennium Campus Network, where she successfully led 20 fellows in implementing 10 UN Sustainable Development Goals within 3 months. With a passion for AI-driven quantitative ecological research, Eniola aims to bridge the gap between data science and conservation. Her work aligns with UN SDGs 4. Quality education, 5, gender equality, 13, climate action, and 14, life below water. Ensuring ecological data is accessible for researchers and policymakers worldwide. Welcome to the ARMS podcast, Eniola.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Great.
Yeah.
So Eniola, can you tell us a bit about your journey to becoming a graduate student at the Department of Biology?
Okay, so I had wanted to come for my master's in Canada since 2020, but February, March 2020, COVID happened and that did not work out. So between the period of 2020 to 2023, I started searching for schools that I wanted to do my master's in because I knew I wanted a master's in Canada, right? So I started searching for that, and then I spent so many time doing that until I landed University of Regina, and then I just started checking out the lecturers in the University of Regina, and I came across my supervisor, which is Dr. Bruno Suarez, and I saw that he's doing something relating to quantitative ecology. And that impressed me because the idea we have of biology is always like, going to do samples and all of those things, right? Mm-hmm. The calculation part of biology is not talked about so much. So when I saw someone doing that, it was so impressive. And then I sent him a cold email. I would love to work in your lab and things like that. So we got on a call and he was pleased with my background. Mm-hmm. And then, he said, okay, I'm going to be your supervisor. So let's do this. And then I applied to the school. I got the admission. I applied for my visa. I got it. Mm-hmm. And I got on a plane. And here I am at the University of Regina.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's great to have researchers and people like you here. Mm-hmm. Within the field of biology, for those who are not very familiar, can you tell us just generally what is included in the field of biology, or some of the research that is being conducted either here at the University of Regina or generally?
Well, I'll say that biology is a very vast field, right? It's basically the study of life, right? Study of Mother Nature, and it's such a privilege. I consider it a privilege to be able to study about Mother Nature. So biology is divided into so many areas. We have the zoology, which is about the animals, the botany, about the plants, anatomy and physiology, about the human body, marine biology, about organisms in water, right? It's so vast. And before I left Nigeria, I was able to work as a research assistant in the University of Ibadan, which is one of the leading universities in Nigeria, and we were able to artificially inseminate Claras garriopenos, which is an invasive catfish species. Mm-hmm. I couldn't wait till the end to see how it thrived, but it was such an interesting research for me because that fish species is well known in Nigeria for its economic value because a lot of people use it for aquaculture, right? Mm-hmm. So being able to artificially inseminate it is actually a very right step in the right direction, right? So unfortunately, I couldn't wait till the end because I only had 3 months to spend there, but that was very interesting for me. In that same university, we engaged in rice polyculture, where we planted rice together with the fishes, right? And it started to thrive before I left, and that was a very interesting research for me. And getting to the University of Regina, I've been able to meet with some of my colleagues that are doing amazing research, right? Bats and power lines, mercury and the aquatic ecosystem, salty cows, fresh solution for salty cows, right? Michael Mensa, right? So many interesting things, bacteria and their effects on the DNA, right? So many interesting researches, and they are so vast, and it's so beautiful to see. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you tell us what is your research topic and how you describe it to a non-technical audience?
Well, I am no Kwaku Ayisi or Michael Mensa, but I'll try my best.
Just the topic. And the reason I added the second part is maybe if there's some technical terms in the topic itself, maybe how you'd explain that, but just the topic for now.
Oh, okay, so I am actually working on creating a global database of prey-predator interactions in freshwater ecosystem, but we are using an AI-powered framework to get that done.
Okay.
Right? So the entirety of the research is about gathering data from thousands of published papers, articles, and things like that, and then using AI for the data extraction, that is to extract useful information from that, and then since you're talking about just the topic, so that's basically it, right? So just gathering thousands of global database, thousands of papers rather, and then creating a global database of prey-predator interactions in freshwater ecosystems.
Okay. So within your research, what is the main issue, problem, or that you're trying to find out more information about?
A lot.
Okay.
A whole lot, right? And the first thing I'm going to be talking about is that the AI framework that we currently use is not good enough. And because of that, it's also something that I have to work on, right? Trying to create a better AI-powered framework that would support ecological papers, right? Because the ones that we have on ground right now are not good enough for that, right? They are not able to accurately extract information from ecological papers, which is what we really need, right? So we need to extract relevant information, and the AI available not good enough. So we are trying to, at the same time, we're trying to gather the database and create the database. At the same time, we are trying to find an appropriate AI solution that can help with the extraction, because we're talking about thousands of papers here, right? And we can't do all of that manually. So that's why we need this AI-powered framework, which is something we are working on, right? Another limitation is that right now we have limited hands working on the data extraction, because the process we are in right now is that we are extracting data. We're just like collecting data from lots of papers from different journals, right? And there's just about 7 of us working on that. So we're quite limited. The AI would have been helpful if we've been able to find a relevant framework for the extraction of ecological papers. But like I said, we've not been able to find one that is good enough. So that's another limitation. Another limitation is that when we are extracting the data, a lot of researchers write the same thing in different ways, right? So some of them, we end it with CEA, some of them, we end it with CAEA, and they're talking about the same thing, right? AI does not recognize that, so it will count all those things as different, right? But what we're trying to do is to create a global database, right? Which means that those things are the same thing and we have to record them as the same. So that means that after all of the extraction, we still need to go through a process of harmonizing the data, right? That's to make sure that, okay, this same thing, even though it was said in 20 different ways, we have to make sure it's still one thing, right? Which is a lot of work, right? So that's another limitation that we're encountering right now in the research.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. Are there any studies that have been conducted similar to what you're trying to study maybe years ago or in a different form that is in available literature, or is this completely revolutionary that you're attempting to do?
Well, there are data available, right, but they're location-based, right? We are trying to create a global database. And I think another limitation I should also mention is the language barrier, right? Because we are creating a global database, that means we see some papers in other languages that we cannot interpret, right? So that's another issue on its own. So I would say that data is made available in different locations and different regions, but our job is to bring all of those together to make them into a global database that can be accessible for everyone, yeah.
Okay, interesting. What are your research questions for your thesis?
Okay, so what are the knowledge shortfalls in prey-predator interactions, right? And how do these shortfalls influence the interactions between these organisms in the freshwater ecosystem, right? And what other factors contribute to either make these interactions better or worse?
Okay. Now, the methodology, and you probably touched on this earlier before, but what is the way that you're planning to answer your research questions? What is your methodology or your methods?
Okay, so first things first is the data extraction, right? So you have to extract data from as many papers as possible, extract relevant information. We want to get information about the predator, the food items that it consumed, which are the prey. We want to find out where it happened, what kind of environment was it, is it, all of those information. We want to gather those, right? And once we gather those information, we are now going to be using R programming, which is a programming language to standardize the information and also look for taxonomic and geographical biases in those information. And from there, we would be able to discover the shortfalls in these interactions, right? What are the areas that researchers have not been paying attention to, right? The way I try to explain it is that, the dangers of time bombs is that if you don't know that a time bomb is somewhere, right, it's your ignorance will not stop the time bomb from ticking or from going off, right? So the fact that we don't know that there might be danger is even more dangerous, right? That's why it's important to see this knowledge shortfall. So what are the areas that have the time bombs that are likely to detonate the earliest, so that we can, research efforts can be prioritized towards those areas. So that's why it's important to do this, right? And of course, also to make data available to researchers that would want to probably pick this up later on. So we're going to be using the AI for the extraction, and then we're going to be using R programming for the analysis, to see the biases so that we can develop a trend and discover a trend in the information available. And after discovering the trend, it will help us see the shortfalls, see the areas that we need to study, see the areas that have been understudied, and then we can now prioritize research efforts towards these areas. So
okay, interesting. Within the process of your thesis, do you anticipate any limitations, or have you experienced any so far? Whether with the software that you're using, with the data you're collecting, do you anticipate or have you experienced any limitations so far?
Yeah, well, apart from the ones I've mentioned earlier about the, different researchers writing the same thing in different ways, maybe because they're in different regions. The way I would write a paper in Canada is probably not the same way a lecturer in Nigeria would write it, right? Even if we're trying to say the same thing, right? That's a very big issue for us because we are trying to bring all of this data together, right? And that's why it is necessary for us to harmonize the data, which is going to take a lot of time. So that's one big limitation that we are currently facing, and we are trying to find a way around it.
Interesting. If somebody who didn't know much about AI or biology or anything that has to do with your research were to ask you, Eniola, why does this matter? The hours and hours that you're going to be dedicating and that you've dedicated so far for this particular research, how would you explain to them why it matters?
Well, it matters a lot because, like I said, there might be time bombs ticking, but you don't know because you haven't researched on it. For instance, there's a particular fish species, Silurus, that was introduced from the Eastern European lakes to the Western European lakes without understanding the full potential of that fish. And right now, that fish is causing so much problems because it is feeding on so much prey that the original predators in that ecosystem wouldn't even have dared to do, right? And it is just moving so fast, and now it's so hard to curtail it, right? So that if that had been discovered, right, early enough, it would have been avoided, right? So it is important to do this research so that we can see areas that have not really been studied when it comes to prey-predator interactions in freshwater ecosystems, and then see the ones that have the time bombs likely to detonate the earliest, and then also see how these interactions between prey and predators will change in the face of, climate change, right? In the face of the changing ecosystems. We want to see how that is going to change the functioning and the structuring of the food webs, which is very important, right? Because at the end of the day, I always like to say that organisms depend on one another to survive, right? So it might look like, this is just about the fishes, but at the end of the day, if you connect the dots, it will later reach humans because it's a food chain, right? It's a food web, right? From the lowest food in the web to the highest. So it's at the end of the day, it will later affect us, right? So we need to know how climate change, environmental conditions are affecting the functioning and the structure of these food webs. We need to know the areas that have not been studied. We need to discover if there are areas that, there are time bombs that we need to, prioritize research efforts towards, and that's why we're doing this database. Yeah.
Very, very, very important research. My next question, you can either answer on a personal level or generally based on what you've seen and heard. As a racialized researcher, are there any barriers to success and or opportunities to success?
Well, to be honest, first of all, I'll say that the University of Regina is doing a good job with inclusivity because it's one of the most diverse university that I know, right? And there are intentional efforts being made to ensure that everybody is included, which I love and I really appreciate. And generally, I also think the Canadian Society is doing a good job with that because of they are consistently trying to improve on including everyone. So I wouldn't say that there have been barriers I faced because of the color of my skin or because of my race when it comes to accessing opportunities. Have I experienced some microaggressions? Yes. Have I experienced some, racist remarks? Yes. But not in places that matters, right? And since they are not in places that matters, then I don't care about them either, right? So I think when it comes to accessing opportunities, I wouldn't say, I have been held back because of my color. And I also think that my supervisor being a person of color is also helpful because he never holds back in showing me opportunities and he never holds back in providing the support I need to thrive, which I also think is another important reason why we need more representation up there, right, in the places that matters. And one other thing I would also say is that as people of color, as Black, Indigenous, and people of color, it's easy for us to stop ourselves from accessing these opportunities because we've mentally disqualified ourselves in our mind. Like, oh, they would not even accept me because I'm Black or whatever. But what I want to say is just go ahead to apply for it anyways. Don't disqualify yourself because of your race, even before they officially disqualify you. For me, once I see that I am 60% qualified for any opportunity, best believe I'm going for it, right? So let's apply for them regardless. Let's try to get opportunities regardless. What's the worst case scenario? You have much more, unfortunately, emails, right? And that's it, right? But just go ahead and do it anyways. And that's what I believe. Yeah.
Wonderful. My next question has to do with open research. The government of Canada is committed to making federally funded science research open by helping to generate research ideas, making data and publications readily available, and making research understandable and useful. Do you have any thoughts or experiences with open science at all?
Yeah, I'm a very big fan of open science because, in fact, this global database that we're gathering, even though it's going to take a whole lot from us, a lot of time, a lot of effort, energy, and money, we are going to be making it accessible, right, on platforms like Zenodo and Mangal, right? So it's going to be accessible to anybody that wants to access it. And I believe that the way to thrive, if we are going to make so much progress in the field of science, we need to be able to collaborate. And if we are going to be able to effectively collaborate, then we actually need to make data, to make researches more open, right? So I stand for that, and I really applaud what the Canadian government is doing as regards that, because it's really laudable, and I'm a firm believer of that, because many of the resources that we are using for our research currently, if they weren't open, then we would have been limited, right? So I must say that it's a very important one, and we are thankful for it.
Great. Now back to your specific research. After you conclude it, are there any opportunities if, for example, maybe even you wanted to extend it or research into other aspects of it, or if another student wanted to, are there any opportunities to continue or extend your research after you concluded in your thesis?
Yeah, because this is not something that you finish up in 2 or 3 years, right? So yes, there's still a lot to be done, and I don't think this research is something that is ending anytime soon, right? So even after I leave, I'm sure that the research will still continue. And one thing that we're doing right now, even as we are doing all of the extraction and all, is that we are making it accessible in a way that someone new that is coming in will not have issues continuing from where we stopped, right? That's one structure that we're intentionally putting in place. And I believe that that's going to be helpful because, like I said, this research is not ending anytime soon, and it will not end with me, right? It continues, so yeah.
Great. How important is it to disseminate your research to a broader audience? And have you had any opportunities to disseminate to a broader audience, and do you plan to?
Yes, so I was part of the lightning talk that happened on the Research Showcase Week, where I was able to share a bit about what I'm currently doing. And I always look for opportunities to share the research, because even after the research showcase, after I shared my talk, I had someone that was doing something similar regarding AI, and we were able to talk about it, and that was a productive network. But even apart from the benefits for me, I believe that what is research if it's not shared, right? I mean, what's the purpose of it? So you just do the research and then you keep it, or you just publish it, and when you publish it, only science audience gets to read it, because I don't think a lot of non-science audience will intentionally go to science journals to start reading papers, right?
Yes.
So I believe that it's very important that we're able to disseminate research, because a good research that is done should not be kept to yourself, should not be kept to just the science audience. It's not like a cult group or anything like that, right? So it should be, let everybody have access to this information, because they're going to be helpful, right? So except you feel like your research is not helpful enough for the general public.
Yes. Okay. Throughout your academic journey to get to this point, are there any people that have inspired you, even more specifically inspired you to conduct academic research, that you want to acknowledge or speak about?
Yeah, and the first person is my dad. Funny how my dad also has a PhD, right, in Nigeria, and my dad is an academic through and through, right? And he was my first point of contact when it comes to academic research, aiming for excellence and things like that. So yeah, I would really want to appreciate him. If he watches this, thank you so much, Dad. And then the next person has to be my supervisor back in my undergrad. That's Professor Charles Oyema. Right? Anyone that is in marine biology in the University of Lagos will know Professor Charles, because he's more than just a lecturer. He's someone that wants to see you thrive. So he would always do everything he can to ensure that you thrive. And funny how he was my supervisor for my thesis, my undergraduate thesis, right? My undergraduate project. So I was really privileged to work under him, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful time. And I must say that working under him was what encouraged him much more to want to pursue my research, to want to do a master's in research, right? Because I could easily have just done a course-based master's or something like that. But yeah, so thank you so much, Prof. Charles. Thank you. We really appreciate you. And then I say we, I mean all the students in marine biology. Thank you so much. And then one more person that I'm going to appreciate has to be my husband, right? He's into engineering, right? So I wouldn't really say he's a research person, but he's always pushing for academic excellence. So I can't even do any less. And yeah, so I would say those three people have been so inspiring for me. They've played such a very important role in my journey, and I'm so glad for them. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think you're doing very incredible research, and I'm sure there have been people in your past who've looked up to you, those who are looking up to you currently, and there will be more looking up to you and what you're doing and the journey that you've taken in the future as well. If you have any advice to give to somebody who wants to follow a similar path to yours, what would you tell them?
If by similar you mean the part of quantitative ecology, I would say that, right?
Well, it could either be that or maybe just academic research in general.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just do both.
Okay.
Okay, so for quantitative ecology, I would give a very candid advice, which is start learning how to code as fast as possible, right? You need that knowledge. Start learning how to code, start learning your statistics. I know that my undergrad, when we did statistics, we didn't really take it seriously because we're like, I don't need statistics, I'm in biology, right? But now I'm literally doing more of that. So take your coding serious, take your statistics serious, and the sky is the limit for you. And for anyone that wants to pursue research, I would say that go for it, right? Don't feel like, oh, I'm going to be spending so much time with it. Research is hard. No, just go for it if it's really something that you want to do. Because at the end of the day, seeing the results, sometimes no results, but just seeing yourself make progress in doing that thing and knowing that this thing I'm doing is not just for myself, it's for the benefit of other people, it's for the benefit of the ecosystem, for the benefit of Mother Nature, is just so beautiful to see, and it's so fulfilling. So I'll just say go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. Great. Well, Eniola, it's been wonderful having this chat with you, and thank you so much for sharing so many insights about your journey and about your research work with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a beautiful time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Academic Research Made Simple, or ARMS podcast. Please tune in again as we continue to discuss incredible research being conducted by racialized faculty and racialized graduate students.